Hello, this is Mark from SineWave, and in today's video, I want to discuss and show some configuration on setting up your multi-WAN connections. And in this instance, we're going to use NetCloud Manager. There are a lot of things that apply regardless of what platform you're using: Peplink, Teltonica, Sierra, or even Cradlepoint, like I'm showing today. So again, we're going to show how you set up multi-WAN. That multi-WAN could be Starlink, cellular. It could be cable internet coming pipe through into your kit. It could be MANA radio, and so forth. So in this particular instance, we're going to use R1900, and we're going to show the connection of Starlink and also cellular and some dual cellular modems and how that configuration would be applied. So starting off, we're going to show what we have configured here. In each of our SineWave kits, we use Starlink in them, and that is coupled with cellular. You can see here in this instance, we have Ethernet WAN, and then your 5G SIM1 and SIM2. And this Ethernet WAN is our Starlink, and then of course our cellular applied here. Now, what we have in each one of these is a single modem. And just like every cellular router, they have a single modem. Some have dual out of the box. You can buy either way. But each one of them with a single modem has two cellular card SIM slots. And that means that one is going to be your primary, one's going to be your secondary, but only one of them can run at any particular time. The reason for the dual SIM is if your primary SIM fails, meaning you don't have connection, let's say it's an AT&T connection, and you transition to a Verizon location where it's only a Verizon tower, it'll seamlessly or it'll fail over. It's not seamless. What happens is that the router will fail. It says, hey, I have connection to AT&T. It will reboot the whole router and the modem, load Verizon's firmware, and come up on the other carrier, in this instance Verizon. So that's what we have here. We have AT&T in SIM1 and Verizon in SIM2. But notice this one is active and this one's available. So out of the box, it'll be set up like this. And let me show you what that configuration looks like. So here we'll have Starlink at the top, and then your 5G cellular modem in this WAN profile. There are in Cradlepoint multiple other cellular profiles. In our instance, we're only using the 5G cellular profile because these are all 5G products, and therefore I just deleted the other WAN profiles for cellular because they'll never be used. Even if this 5G signal is not, even if we cannot get a 5G signal, it'll automatically look for a 4G signal and connect to that as well. So that is what we have here. So in this particular instance, again, we have Starlink at the top. These are stacked like your typical firewall ACLs, where the system reads it from top to bottom, meaning Starlink is our primary, then it's going to use the cellular connectivity. We can change this by simply clicking and dragging each of these profiles. Then, if we look over to the right, we see that we have always on and always on. This is selected in this connection state. By default, there'll be some as connect as needed, and then the cellular will definitely be connected as needed. That's how they all come out of the box like this. We configure them for always on, so when we have a Starlink fail on us or we no longer get reception, it automatically rolls and is already connected to the cellular network. And you'll lose maybe at most one packet. I've seen a couple times where I had 2 packet loss, and that was the highest I've ever seen. So it's pretty quick. Now, underneath the hood, if we go back, we notice, we're going to discard that, we notice that this is connected and the second SIM is available. So underneath the hood, really what's happening is that SIM1 is always on. However, SIM2 is really set as connected as needed. that's kind of what happens by default with this main modem profile here. So under the hood, SIM1 will always be on as I have configured it, but just note that SIM2 will be connected as needed. And you won't see that here, but that's kind of how it works underneath in the operating system. So there is times when we will need to add different profiles. Let me give you an example. Right now I have 2 SIM cards in it, in a single modem, and they don't have any static APN, no custom APN, meaning I don't have like a static IP address. I didn't set up a custom APN for my organization. Why would you want that? Is because there's better security with custom APNs. The APN may only belong to you and your organization. Maybe you have a static IP address that requires a custom APN that you'll be put on for specifically designed for that static IP address. And so this will and may need to change. If we want to do that, let me back up. Additionally, we could also get a second modem for this R1900. It is literally a dock that connects to the bottom of this R1900. That would be a second modem. And the reason why we would do that is if we want, let's say, Verizon in SIM slot 1 of this modem, and maybe we want AT&T FirstNet in the bottom modem that attaches to this R1900. And that way, now both of those can be active at the same time, as well as maybe Starlink. So now we have 3 connections that are always on and ready to go. It's a much more robust solution. There is no powering down and rebooting during the failover process. It's instant. So those 2 scenarios may require you to create your own WAN profile. Again, static APN or static IP address. And then maybe we have a different modem or a second modem. Now we're running 2 carriers simultaneously at the same time. So to do that, we're going to select add, and let's call this one AT&T FirstNet SIM1. The type will be modem, and then the modem template is going to be 5GX. Now this right here is dependent on the router that you're using. We use all 5G products in our sine wave edge kit. So all of our kits will use this modem template here. If you have questions on that, let us know. We can help you out and kind of give you what modem template you should be using. In this case, we're saying AT&T is in SIM slot 1 of the actual router. So we're going to come down here and we want to identify by the hardware where this SIM actually is, because this is just a naming scheme that we have come up with. So we're going to say slot is and SIM slot 1, right? With this configuration, this router knows that this card is in SIM slot 1. We'll hit next. If you have a custom APN, or maybe you have a static IP address, this is where you can add that. So in APN, it shows default. I use default override a lot for this, and then you will add your APN that is provided to you from your carrier. They have to give that to you. So this is where you'll add that. Now, I will say this is not, according to Cradlepoint, a best practice. There's other ways you should be adding your custom APN to your router. However, I've had mixed results with that, and I do know that this default override has worked for me 100% of the time. So this is what I stick with. We'll save this configuration. Now we notice it popped up here. Let's create, now that's again, this is for this modem, the R1900 modem. Let's create another one. We're gonna show like this in a dual modem configuration. So let's say Verizon SIM1 dual modem, whatever you want to name this, however you want to identify it. Modem template, 5GX again. Again, we're going to say is SIM slot 1. Again, we're saying we put this in the second modem, not the second SIM slot, the second modem in SIM slot 1. But now we need to identify which modem. So we'll select on port, is, and here, notice it says internal modem. This internal modem is the actual R1900's modem. If you add a dock to this, it'll be in modem 1. So we're saying we put Verizon in the second modem that resides underneath the R1900 in SIM slot 1. We'll hit next. Again, you can add your APN here if you need to. If you don't have a static APN or static IP address, then just leave it as default. We'll hit save. And there we go. Now, what we need to do is determine what the priority is of our profiles. Which WAN do we want to use first? Traditionally, I always put Starlink there. That could vary. Let's say AT&T is our second one that we want to roll over to if we have a failure. Now, 5G LTE modem, this profile here, we no longer want or need to have this in always on state. Let's put it back to default, connect as needed, because we don't even really want to use that one. And we can click this box here. I would just leave it on. It doesn't hurt anything. And then we'll come back up here to AT&T, and remember, we're using this example as if we're running dual modem. So we're going to select this connection state is always on, save. Same thing for Verizon, always on, save, and there we go. Now what we have done, we have created 3 links, primary, alternate, and the tertiary link, secondary and tertiary. So this is the way it's going to fail over. Again, maybe lose a packet in between failovers. So the user will probably not even know. Now let's do a different scenario. Let's say you're doing the same modem. Let's say we don't have a dual modem. Let's remove Verizon. We'll start this again. So in this instance, we have AT&T FirstNet SIM 1 profile. And remember, we added this override here, this APN, this custom APN. If we did that in this profile and we didn't have the AT&T profile, and we had 2 SIM cards in there, when we had if we would have a failover, I think I'm in the wrong one. If we had a failover, then both of these routers would try to use the same APN. Again, if we had a FirstNet SIM in there that we had, let's say, a static IP address, or again, maybe a custom APN, if you had a failover, Verizon also would try to come up with this APN. That's not going to work. So in this instance, if that is the case and you're running a single modem and you have a SIM card in there that has a custom APN or a static IP address, we also want to create a second profile, another SIM profile. So again, we won't use this 5G, this default modem WAN profile. We'll create a new one. So that's why we created the AT&T SIM 1 profile with our custom APN. And then now we're going to add a second one, Verizon SIM 2. Type is going to be modem 5GX. SIM slot is 2. And we're going to save that. All right. Let's rack and stack this properly. And again, this is the way we're going to fail over. But notice we have FirstNet SIM 1 always on. This Verizon SIM 2, if we're doing a second SIM again in the R1900 modem, so we're one modem, we want to leave this as connect as needed. The reason why we do that is if you have both of these as always on, they will constantly fight each other on who should be up, because again, it's only one modem. So you'll have flapping. You'll see AT&T connect, and then Verizon, it'll drop, and then Verizon will connect, and it'll drop, and it'll keep going back and forth if you have both of these as always on the same modem. The only way you can run 2 SIM cards that are always on is if you have 2 different modems. So hopefully that explains this part of modem profiles. Additionally, we need to go over at some point, it's very important to know what WAN verify is and failback, but that is another tutorial we can put together. There is Cradlepoint documentation that kind of goes over that. It's a way to fail over and back gracefully. And to create some kind of checks and balances on when to fail over. So hopefully this has been useful, and make sure, by the way, commit changes so that this can take submit this configuration to your router. And with that, thank you for watching.